Hey, it's Silas again, here with another tutorial, this one for calendars. If you've seen my previous tutorials, things might look a little bit different. That's because the site has been updated quite a few times since then. And one of the new features are calendars. So over here on the left, we're going to open up this drop-down menu, and I'm going to open up this tab with the calendar icon on it. And calendars are for custom calendars in your game. So if you want to run a game that takes place with different seasons, with different holidays and different events each year, you can create these calendars and use them in your campaign. So to first do that, we're going to hit this little plus button, name our calendar like usual, and we're going to call it Calendar of Narnia. And if you're going through this first time, I highly recommend loading the example content. You don't have to. I'm going to skip through it, but recommend that you do. So let's take a look at these panels here. On the left, we've got the weekdays, the center of months, and the right, recurring events. Left, these are the days of the week. And we're going to call our day, we're going to start naming these. You press enter to make it a new one. You don't have to hit the plus button. So day 1, we'll call the day 2 Tuesday, and we'll call day 3 Fun Day. Okay, it's a 3-day work or a 3-day week, and we can have any number of days that we want here. Then for months, again, this is how many months are in the year, how many days are each month, and we're going to say that there are 20 days in this first month, and we'll call it January. And then press enter, open up a new day, and February, and it's got 200 days because it's always winter. And then we've got the month of summer. I know this isn't a real month, but we're going to say we've got 30 days of summer. If you decide that you actually want January to come after February, you can move these things around. Just click and drag them. Pretty neat feature. If day 1 happens at the very last day of the week, you can make that happen. I'm not going to do that because it's confusing. In fact, I'll move January back here too. And the last thing is these recurring events. And these are for anything that happen over and over and again that aren't weekdays and months. So for example, if you have a 9 to 5, there's usually a payday, so we're going to make a payday event. Not very fantasy themed, but I want to show you how this works. You get paid on this day. Fantastic. And this happens monthly, and it happens on the first day of every month. Sweet. We're going to create another event, and we're going to call this one Solstice. This is the longest day of the year, and this happens yearly. It's not monthly. It doesn't happen every month. Instead, it happens once a year, and it happens in summer, and we're going to say it happens on the 15th day, in the middle of summer. And lastly, our last type of event we've got here is this fixed event. And these are for things like moon cycles, which don't happen based on the calendar. They're just based off, instead they're based off of how many days have passed since it last happened. So, new moon. The moon rises. It's full. Okay, I'm not a poet, okay? And the period, so this is how much time there is between each of these events. So our moon rises once every 10 days. Fantastic. I'm going to save on this. This is one of the only features in Codium that you actually have to save manually. And I'm going to go back to our home. Go back home all the way. And you can see over here on our calendars, we have the calendar of Narnia. I'm going to launch this campaign. And you'll notice that over here on the bottom left, there's a new tab that's opened up. It looks like this weird sequence of lines. It's a little bit confusing. Don't worry, we'll talk about it. So this red mark points out the current day. Each of these other lines are different days in the weeks and months. You can see that this super thick line, this marks day 1 of January 1st of the 0th year. This slightly thicker line, that's the start of the week. Remember, we've got 3-day weeks, so once every 3 days there's a thicker line. And you'll see an even thicker line when there's a month start. One of the neat things is that all of our events from our calendar are visible here. So we can see that the very first day is payday, because it's the first of the month, and it's also a new moon. So click on this, and we can see, oh, it's the new moon. If we wanted to link to it, we could do that. New moon. Sweet. Payday also exists. We can go back to new moon. Those are there. Also, we should be able to see that after 10 days or so, there's another new moon. And if I hover over this, you can brings up a little pop-up. You can see what it says. I can click on that. It takes me to the full page. The last feature here, or a couple of last features, one of the last features here is the calendar view, and this is the full view. So this is a timeline, and this is useful for looking at small-scale stuff, but there's also this calendar view. And this gives you an overview of the year. So you can see you've got payday, new moon, then another new moon, and then another new moon, more new moons. Here's our super long month. Here we get further down, further down, further down. Eventually we get to summer, payday, new moon, new moon. And you can see solstice right here halfway through summer. Click on this, it takes us to solstice. What's neat is if I scroll back up, you can see this purple outline marks it's the 10th day of this month. If I want to jump to the 99th day of January or February or whatever it is, I can set as today. That's just a right click. That's a fast way of jumping around. The last thing I want to show you guys is if I create a new note and call it The World Ends. The World Ends. This is the end of the world. And this happens, it's, let's say it's happening tomorrow. So I'm going to set plus today. And you can see it automatically put in today's date. Because today's the, February 97th of the 0th year. And I enter and it renders and it now inserts into the calendar. So my notes, I can create, if there's a second end of the world, maybe it happens the day after, I can say 2980. And now you can see that there's a second event here. And they both link back to this event. And this is a great way of quickly making a note appear in your calendar. If I hop back to the timeline view, you can see that the world ends in both these days. These now appear. These are gray icons as opposed to purple because they're notes, not events on the calendar. So that's it. That's calendars. They're super cool. Being able to link to them is nice. Being able to quickly reference your make new notes that happen on specific days. That's pretty neat. Highly encourage you to check it out. I guess the last thing, you can switch days here. In addition to using the calendar, you can change the day using these drop downs. If I want to make it January 3rd of the year 4000, I can do that as well. Now if I hit plus today, you'll see that, there we go, January 3rd. We can change the years. I can go back to the current day. There's a lot of stuff here to explore. But this is hopefully a good, quick little overview. Hope you learned something. And I'll see you in the next video, if there's one.